Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Asher Marketing Podcast. This podcast is brought to you by Asher Agency, your full-service marketing partner serving clients nationwide. Whatever you need to connect with your audience and share your story, we have you covered. To learn more, visit asheragency.com.
My guest is Emily Land. Emily, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for doing this. This is not your first time on the podcast, but it's the first time that we're going to talk about you.
Yes, that's true.
she sure told us that idea. So I want to start at the very beginning. You've been at Asher for about a year now.
Yep, that's
right.
And
you're still very young into your career, but let's go back to when you were at Angola High School, my wife's alma mater, by the way.
Very cool. I didn't know that.
Hornets.
Go Hornets.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. What were you thinking about career-wise, and where did you go from there, and then where did you pivot, if you pivoted at all?
Yeah. So young Emily, high school Emily, was all over the place. Mm-hmm. I really didn't know what I wanted to do.
Yeah, most high schoolers, even who think they know what they want to do.
Yes. Yeah. And much to my parents' frustration, I wanted to do this and then I wanted to do this. I was all over the place. But I thought I wanted to maybe go to law school, so that was on my mind for a while. And then my junior year, my best friend and I started a jewelry company, and it was super low-key, and then it kind of took off a little bit.
Oh, wow.
It was called EK Stamp Jewelry. My best friend in the world and I started it.
Her name began with a K.
Yes,
All
Kayla.
Right. See,
Emily and Kayla.
See how I picked that up.
And we had so much fun, and I'm like, I love the business world. Maybe I'll own my own business, start a boutique, do something like that. I loved the social media part of it. We did a lot of fun photo shoots. It was a really fun way to kind of dip my toe in the business world. Yeah. And my dad was like, why don't you major in marketing? You can go to school for marketing. And then if you want to go to law school, you have a business major, you can do that. But that's kind of how I ended up with a business major. Yeah. And then, from there, I ended up at Hillsdale College. Yeah.
And you did a couple internships when you were there. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So I ended up at Hillsdale College. I love my alma mater so much. I feel like the college really shaped me as a person and prepared me professionally. Yeah. I had an internship in Nashville, Tennessee at IO Studio. They are a similar size marketing firm to Asher. They actually just recently, like Asher, got their women-owned small business certification as well. Yep. And they're also a veteran-owned small business. But I loved that agency. They have a lot of government contracts with Tennessee. So I got to work on some social media projects for the World Series of Board Gaming, for Army and Navy National Guard.
I didn't even know there was a World Series of Board Gaming.
It was their first or second year, so it was very new.
Okay.
It was super fun. Yeah. Working there. Yeah. Great experience.
So let's talk about your perception of Asher, because you've been here a year, so you know the business really well, but you're still new enough to have some objectivity. So when people ask you, tell me about this place you work, Asher Agency, how do you respond to that?
Oh, gosh. I truly am so grateful to be here. I love Asher. Yeah. It sounds so cliche, but it really is the people. Yeah. I love everybody on the creative team. It is so fun being in the creative department. Yeah. I've learned so much from my coworkers. All of them are so fun and creative and talented. Yeah. Emily and Sean and Chris are amazing designers. I've learned so much from them. And Mary, I work pretty closely with her. She's our copywriter. And of course, Jen. Yeah. They're all just so talented and helpful.
Well, what I'm guessing might be helpful to you as someone who's kind of just getting started is you've got, I won't name names, but you have people on the team who've been around for a while. They've been doing this work for 20 plus years. You have folks who are more mid-career, who have been doing it long enough. They have ironed out some of the wrinkles, but they're still, learning and adapting. And then you have other folks, Chris comes to mind specifically, who are sort of at the same, vintage as you. So there's kind of someone to go to with any challenge and get different ideas. I never really thought of it that way until you mentioned the team, but that's one of the things I like is, there are times I will talk to you about something and say, please give me the perspective of someone who's 30 years younger than me. there are times I'm running out of people to go to who have more perspective than I do, but occasionally I'll go to someone and say, tell me what this looks like from your perspective. But I agree. I'm glad to hear that the people make it work for you, because that's one of the things that's kept me at Asher for more than 20 years. Social media can be a challenging business to be in because it, as you and I have experienced firsthand, it can move really fast and you have to get it right, but often you have to get it right now. How do you balance that?
Yeah, you got that right. Social media moves very quickly.
Yeah.
I think for a person like me, I ended up in the right career. Like, I like to move fast, work hard, get things done. A lot of, balls always rolling, things are always going on. It is very difficult, but it's very rewarding. Every day is something new. So it's kind of, the hardest part is also the best part, and what I like the most about working in social media. Every day is different. I'm always doing something else, whether it's copywriting, helping put together reels, writing captions. I get to do a little bit of everything, and that can be a little overwhelming. I've learned a lot and improved in a lot of ways because I'm doing a lot of different things, but it is difficult. And I think having an awesome team to rely on also helps a lot.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this very genuinely. You don't seem to get rattled. Maybe you feel rattled, but it doesn't look that way. And that's pretty unique, especially for someone who is younger. You seem to just kind of like roll with the punches. Is that all a big act, or is that really how you're built?
Thank you. That is really a high compliment. Honestly, the first thing that comes to mind, my dad is a football coach, so I'm a football coach's daughter. And in his office growing up is a sign that says, control what you can control, attitude and effort. And truly, that is ingrained in me. It's just been beat into me, you can control how you approach challenges.
Let's let your dad off the hook. It literally hasn't been beat into you, but it's been reinforced.
Sorry, let's clear that up. My dad is my best friend and my biggest role model.
Well, you've spoken highly of him in other contexts.
Yes.
So,
great clarification.
Yeah, sure. I'm here to help. Yeah. Well, no, I mean, and that genuinely takes a lot of the stress out of it. I mean, I mentioned you roll with the punches, and as someone who, not literally, but someone who's occasionally throwing those punches, it calms me down when you're calmed down, because I'm like, client needs us right now. We only have this much time, and you're like, got it. And I'm like, she's got it. I can feel better about this. So that's good.
Thank you.
Yeah. So let me talk a little bit, and one of our past podcast guests, Amber Owens, who does social media marketing for Indiana Tech, has talked in a really articulate way about the challenges of using social media personally when it's also your job, right? How do you balance that? Is social media personally still fun for you, or does it feel like a chore?
That is a great question. And that is a question I actually wrestled with towards the end of my college career. I had found myself in a lot of social media roles, and my resume was starting to become very social media heavy. And I'm like, is this something I want to pursue? Because I value, the time away from your phone and for your mental health and everything. So that is something I wrestled with very seriously. And I think that I found a really good balance, in trying to divorce personal social media use and using it for work. And just, my screen time hours is embarrassing. I hope no one ever sees my weekly screen time reports because my phone and my iPad are always open and while I'm working. So I just think being diligent in making sure that when I go home, I'm picking up a book and not doom scrolling before bed. And just kind of creating that distance. But I think part of it too is you have to be a user. You have to be on these platforms to understand things and keep up on the trends.
Well, and having people like you on the team makes it easier for people like me to get off our phones. And I mean that very genuinely, because I am now only on LinkedIn. And there was a time when I felt like, well, I have to be on Facebook. I don't really want to be, but I have to be to understand what's going on. And now I'm like, Emily's on our team. Emily understands it better than I ever will. So if I have a Facebook question, I just go to Emily, or I just go to Dave, right? And so for those of us whose screen time is a lot lower thank you because you've kind of got it handled. So
yeah, I mean, we're all students of the game.
Yeah,
the
for
thing
sure.
about social media too, it is changing every single day. It is sometimes difficult to be a social media professional because things are always changing, and you got to stay on top of it. You have to be on your toes.
Well, there's the job of being the implementer. I mean, and you don't work for one brand, you work for several brands. So it's like multiple jobs within one. I have to do it, but simultaneously I need to learn about it, and I also have to teach people what's changing. So how do you work in a way that allows you to prioritize? Because, at Asher, we use Trello, we use email, of course, we have face-to-face conversations, at least some of us use Slack, some of us better than others, not naming names myself. You've got all these tools, but what is your sort of tool to manage all the tools? How do you keep everything on track?
I actually use the app Notability on my iPad to take notes. And within that app, you can search words, even if you have transcribed them.
Yeah.
So every single day, I'm rewriting my list. I'm starring things, highlighting things, just always making sure I'm very detailed in my note taking, have everything written down.
Yeah.
So I'm not dropping any balls. When you're busy, prioritizing things is what you need to do.
Well, I'm glad to hear that because, I think so many times people think, okay, I'm using, like in your case, I'm using Sprout. That's going to be the way I manage my to-dos, but it's not really for that.
Right.
Or I'm using Trello, that's how I'm going to manage my to-dos, but it's not really for that. That's for projects that are one of the things that inform your to-do list. And I think it's always fascinating for me to hear how people are working because it's actually, I think, a compliment to Asher that everybody can kind of find their own. We have to have a way, but you find your own way and you use tools that work for you. How are you managing and prioritizing different clients? Like when you come in any given day, you might be working on 4 or 5 different clients' content. How do you prioritize within that?
Yeah. So a lot of the time for social media, you're looking at months at a time.
Yeah.
So a lot of the time it kind of reveals itself what's up next. What post needs to be posted next.
Yeah.
So you just kind of look at things in order of when they need to be posted. And a lot of the times I'm working with a lot of different people, coordinating with our copywriters and our designers and sometimes videographers, always working with different people. So you have to take into account how big of a lift is this going to be? Because if it's due if we're posting the post on Friday, but I need a lot of people to help me out and a lot of approvals have to be done before then, you have to take into account how many people are touching this. Because social media posts a lot of the time, a lot more people and a lot more teams are touching it than maybe people think.
Yeah, that's a good point. So one of the accounts that you manage, if you will, is Asher's social media. What is your vision for that? As someone who is one of the voices that, help promote our brand, now that you're into it about a year, what do you want to happen with that brand that you have? You live it in addition to telling the story. What do you hope will happen with that maybe over the course of the next 6 to 12 months?
Yeah, well, first of all, that is one of my favorite parts of my role here. I think that celebrating people in Asher has really helped me connect with people and meet new people. It has been so much fun. And I guess I didn't really think of how it would help me kind of integrate into the greater community and culture of Asher and interface with people that I don't interface with on a daily basis. So first of all, that is one of my favorite parts about my role. But second of all, I think that we're really trying to, first of all, showcase culture and make a lot of fun reels and really be unique and stand out on social media. We're just trying a lot of things right now, but also trying to showcase the great work that we do. Keeping a good balance of different types of content and keeping things playful and fun and kind of true to who we are. So I think it's really fun that I get to experiment with that and be, in a way, a voice of Asher.
Yeah, well, and it shows with some of the, I think it was the post about everybody thinks about the projects, but not the project managers. That was fun. That was fun. And, one of the things that I think we we do well but could do even more with is kind of celebrating the people who are more behind the scenes. I mean, I tell people all the time, we have 45-ish employees, and at least 4 of them are full-time accounting people, right? Who really are the backbone of the agency because they make sure that we get paid and that we pay our bills, which is a pretty important thing. Yeah. But when people think of an agency, they think just of the creative side, but the business side is really important too.
Yeah, absolutely. That is something I'm trying to do, every month, looking at who can we spotlight, who can we feature in a creative way? Like you mentioned, our project manager reel.
Yeah.
How can we feature different teams in fun ways? Because a lot of the time, the creative team, you're so close to the creative work, it's easy to feature your team members, but, really trying to feature people who are behind the scenes.
Yeah, well, good job. Well, good job. So as you look ahead at social media overall, what changes are either exciting to you that you see coming up? What maybe is keeping you up at night? Maybe a combination of those things? What do you see on the horizon, and how are you adapting and encouraging clients to adapt?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think my first of all, it has been a trend over a couple of months, probably throughout this year, seeing posts on social media doing super well that are maybe less polished. And it's kind of like an idea you're throwing together, and it is either trending or strikes a chord or is attention grabbing. And a lot of the time, those posts that you think, we didn't spend 1 million hours on creating the perfect graphic and thinking about it and brainstorming, are doing so well. And it's kind of freeing as a creative team where, we're forced to kind of think outside the box and trust our creative gut with things. And also, being immersed in learning about platforms, like trusting my gut and, I really think this is going to work on this platform, and seeing success in that too.
Yeah. No, I think that's really astute. I mean, one of the things that I've noticed is that, and there's still a place for the polished, produced creative, right?
Yes.
But people's BS meters are really good now.
Yes.
And if it looks too much like advertising, it is more likely to be ignored. They want what's real, the audience, that they being the audience. So sometimes when it has rough edges, even if those are planned rough edges, it gets a better response because people are like, oh, that's real. That's a person just like me. I can relate to that.
That is spot on.
So, again, there's a place for all of it, but I think that's really smart to notice that shift. I mean, I say this to people all the time. When I was a kid growing up, well before you were born, anything I saw in the media was a scripted message delivered by someone who's paid to deliver the message with high production values, whether it was news, whether it was a magazine, whether it was... The only exception was local news when, the guy who owned the business was being interviewed, right? Everyone else was kind of paid to send their message. And people, in part because there was less choice, people just kind of assumed that's what it was. But over time, we still have that, but now we have all these messages from people like you and me, and that's starting to dominate our news feeds. So people can pick it out pretty quickly. It's like if it's too polished, it's like that's not credible, and I'm going to go to the thing that's from a person like me.
I think that's exactly right. And I also think in a world where sometimes AI is utilized, and graphic designers and copywriters, there are roles that can be fulfilled by AI in certain ways. I think that's where the value really comes in, that human touch. And our platforms, the algorithm clearly is favoring that human content. And I think that's super encouraging.
Yeah. Well, and it doesn't have to cost a lot of money to stand out. I mean, one of my favorite examples recently, I don't know if you saw this, but having worked in Tennessee, you may have. It was a couple of years ago when the Tennessee Titans did their schedule release, and they were interviewing people on the street. And all they did is they put up a logo of a football, like they said, okay, the Titans week 1 are playing this team, and they put up that team's logo. And they asked people on the street, like, who are we playing? And people got it wrong, like in hilarious ways. And they just ran with that. It wasn't super high production values. It was real people getting it wrong, but they were having fun. And it just blew up because it was so real and so many people could relate to it.
We're taking a quick break from our episode to talk about something that can elevate your brand to new heights. digital marketing. With a team of creative minds and strategic thinkers, Asher specializes in everything from eye-catching ad campaigns to social media management and website design. Visit AsherAgency.com for more info.
I just love that.
Yeah.
I think content like that is so much fun. We recently had a client that we were leaning on a meme trend, and the meme trend is kind of a little bit niche. So maybe half the audience would have seen it and half the audience wouldn't have.
Yeah.
And we were like, you know what? That's cool. It'll be funny because a lot of people are going to be confused and be like, what's going on here? Well, there was so much engagement on the post, and some of the comments were like, hey, at, this account, are you guys okay? Who is running your social? And half the comments were very niche, kind of speaking in that meme language.
Yeah.
It was so funny. And me and our art director, Sean, were sending them to each other like, this is hilarious.
Yeah.
And honestly, what we wanted to happen did happen.
Yeah.
It doesn't always have to be, everyone doesn't have to understand it. It can just be funny and out there.
And there's a lot of value in allowing people to be in on the joke, right? It's kind of like with that schedule release thing. I think part of it was if I knew whose team the logo was, I could feel a little bit superior with the people who didn't know. And that doesn't mean anybody's superior to anyone, but it's funny in part because I feel better because I know what that is.
Yeah.
And the same is true with trends. It's like, I know what that trend is, so I am I'm a person who's in the know, and you get a second of dopamine rush from that, but it works.
Yeah.
How do you stay on top of all the memes and the trendy stuff?
I've
given up.
exposed myself,
As a 55-year-old person, I've given up. But how do you do?
I have already exposed myself. My screen time is embarrassing. That's all there is to it. There's no any type of anything I'm using to source where these trends are coming from. I just am chronically online.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So you young aspiring social media managers, give up all your free time and be online all the time. All right. Let's pivot to a few quick hit questions. You're someone who's had some success early in your career. So you know something about building a fulfilling career and a successful career. You've started a business too. What recommendations do you have for people who are still figuring out? If you're trying to have a successful, fulfilling career, what do you think is most important?
That's a good question. I think that a lot of the time you hear the advice, and I've certainly heard this advice from a lot of professionals and people, keep your work and your life separate. And that is great advice in a lot of ways. But in the way that I think it's a little off base is that, I think you should, when you're in the office, make friendships with your coworkers. And, hopefully you should enjoy what you do. And it should be something that kind of is, speaks to who you are. So, for example, like with social media, I love building relationships. I love celebrating people. And I think it speaks to who I am in a way. And I think there's a part of me that is very closely integrated of who I am and how I am that really aligns with what I do. I'm not saying work should be your life. Work should not be your life. But don't divorce the two.
No, I think that's really smart. And I think it's something that's changed. There was my job prior to Asher, I wore a suit and tie every day, and I felt like I wore a mask every day, right? I'm going to work. I have to be a serious person. But one of the things I like about Asher, and I don't think Asher is unique in this, but it certainly isn't the norm. I really feel like I can be myself here.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, yes, you have to be serious about what you do, but you sure as hell don't have to take yourself very seriously.
Yeah.
As long as you do good work, admit your mistakes, try to learn from them, I think people like that here. And it's like we trust each other because it's like that person's not putting on a show. This is who they really are.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the time, too, people separate career advice and life advice. And it's like, work hard and be kind and make relationships with people and, have a good attitude. It's all the same.
Yeah.
The old-fashioned stuff still holds true.
Well, and it's not necessarily easy, but it isn't complicated.
Right. It's really not.
And
it's
okay to like your clients.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm really fortunate that many of my clients are also friends, and I genuinely am like on the sidelines cheering for them, like, let's do great work on their behalf because they're good people. And that's way more fun than when they're completely separate things. That's really good advice.
Thank you.
All right, let's keep this rolling. What is a myth or misconception about the work you do that you believe deserves to be debunked?
Gosh, I even knew this question was coming. And there are so many misconceptions and stereotypes about social media and social media things. I think something that comes to mind is that social media is very shallow. I mean, you're not seeing the post for very long. Everyone's just out for everybody's attention.
Yeah.
But I think something that's super true is, how you do your work matters sometimes more than even the work that you're doing. What are your intentions about what you're doing? And I think you can have fun with social media and have the best intentions in mind of connecting with your audience and helping the businesses that are our clients reach their goals. And I think social media is a really fun place, and it's clearly not going away.
Yeah.
So putting positive messages that are, true, that help small businesses and companies, there's a lot of value in that. It's not inherently bad.
So let's dig into this a little bit, and I'm gonna challenge both of us a little bit to deal with some of the negative aspects of social media, and I want to hear your thoughts on how do we keep what's good about it, and how do we mitigate some of the challenges? I recently read a study. It's called The Infinite Dial. It comes out every year, and it looks broadly at media. And it's a credible study, and almost half of U.S. adults believe social media should be banned until kids are 16 because of some of the negative effects. What do you think we do with that as a society? Do you think that it's too much too soon to give people access? And again, only share what you're comfortable sharing, but there's some real good that can happen in terms of, giving people a voice who may not have community where they live, in terms of letting the best stories be told regardless of where they come from, in terms of people who maybe didn't have that much power now have the ability to literally reach the world.
Yeah.
But there's some real negatives. How do we solve this problem, Emily?
Well, first and foremost, as an aspiring mother, I think that it's really, really important to obviously be monitoring where your kids are at online. I think the internet can be a very scary and dangerous and suspicious place. So that is my disclaimer as a lover of the children of America. Anyways, outside of that, I think you really hit the nail on the head with it gives people a voice in a way that, you have seen so I think back to the Vietnam War, when media, we're going way back to solve this problem. But, when media...
I didn't know we were going to be talking about the Vietnam War when we started this podcast. Yeah.
You never know. But you think about the Vietnam War, and, they were releasing video that was really surprising the American population, and it changed the
conversation,
the outlook of the American people on the war. Independent of your opinions of the Vietnam War, I'm just saying that people can really engage in conversations in a really authentic way, in a way that is personal. And I think that brings social media immense value. People can engage on big companies, post things themselves and get a lot of traction. And this can be a bad thing, but I think it can also be a positive thing.
Yeah, no, I think that's well said. And I honestly believe it's a case where if you want better from social media, be better with social media.
Yeah, that's a great point.
It's you're not gonna change it. It goes back to your dad's poster. It's control what you can control, really.
I sure hope he doesn't listen to this, because his ego is just going to be going through the roof.
No, it's true. I mean, it's, I had to take stock and say, I need to change the way I'm using social media, because for me, some of it isn't healthy. And now, it's one of the things I'm happiest about is I have a group of friends who don't all agree on everything. We disagree on stuff.
Yeah.
And I think if I hadn't built those connections in the real world and we were just connected online, I would probably like half of them and dislike half of them, right?
Yeah.
But it's very surface. So I think it's really, and that was a lesson I learned the hard way, right? And I think we've all made mistakes online, but I think it's about saying, how do I use this tool to make my real world relationships better instead of as a replacement for real world relationships.
Yeah, and I think that speaks to both as a personal user and as a company.
Yeah.
Because in a way, we are trying to personify these brands, these big companies on social media, make them feel closer to their audience, help them engage with people in a meaningful way. So you don't feel 90 million miles away from your favorite brand. You can leave a comment. They're speaking right to you. So I think that, in a way, the rules that hold for personal social media and for a brand really do overlap, because that's what you're trying to do, is personify a brand on social media. Yeah.
All right, so you took that curveball, you hit it out of the park. Let's go to the next. Let's go to the next quick hit question that does not need to have a quick hit answer, and that is the tools that you use. What's something that helps you get the job done? Could be a digital tool, doesn't have to be. And I'm going to take the one you mentioned. Was it called
Notability?
Notability. I almost said Notify, but that's not it. I'm going to take Notability off the table because you already gave a shout out to Notability. What's another tool that you use that helps you get the job done that you think deserves a shout out?
Okay, well, there's two things.
Yes.
First of all, I love to put reminders on my phone all the time. So, like, things that I really cannot forget, just the iPhone reminders, I'll put them on my...
Okay, pause there for a second. I love that answer because I'm going to make a plea to the universe. Stop trying to remember stuff.
That is a great point.
Stop it. Stop trying to remember stuff. You will forget. The other day, we had a family member over, and we were giving them leftovers from the dinner we had cooked. And I said to this person, "Where are your keys?" And she said, "What do you mean, where are my keys?" And I said, "I'm going to put your keys in the fridge with your leftovers, because if you try to remember your leftovers, you won't."
I love that.
So tell me more about notes in your phone.
You know, now we're getting philosophical because...
We've already covered the Vietnam War.
I think back to my favorite class I ever took at Hillsdale. It was called... Readings in Leadership and Responsibility. And the theme of the class was Know Thyself. And it was all about, being a good leader is about really developing yourself. It's not about, being passionate or being influential. It is about developing yourself first and foremost and knowing yourself. With that, I think that is a great point, and it's something I think of a lot because I'll be in a meeting or, there's things I'm like, I know that I have to put this right now on a reminder on my phone or I'm going to forget
100%.
it. Or I need to put this on Sprout to remember that we have to post about this announcement next month because I'm not going to remember. And knowing yourself and knowing how you work. Not everyone works the same. We're all neurologically dissimilar. And
and it's accepting that if you ignore your flaws, they're going to get worse. If you kind of embrace them and find workarounds.
Absolutely.
I mean, if you've seen my desk where there's never paper on it, almost never paper on it.
It's remarkable. You have a very clean office.
That is a absolute response to being ADHD. Because if I have 2 pieces of paper on my desk, I have 1,000, right? And it's admitting I'm really terrible at the details. So I need to have like Jenna on my team. I have to have Emily on my team who's good at the details, and I have to write stuff down. Or otherwise make sure that there is a prompt for me to remember the things I need to remember.
That is so great. I think, I think I'm having, people. I think that is everyone. I think I'm having a revelation of my own. There's a lot of things that I do, like as little as I keep a little garbage can in my car because I know that if I don't, I'm just going to put it in the center console and it's going to get really messy. So things like that. I think that's such a good point.
But those are the little things that drive people. I think there's a lot of psychic toll when you see that trash in the center console, and I'm using that as a metaphor. You see it every day, and you're like, well, I must be a terrible person because I keep trash in my car. It's like, don't do it then. Create a interruption, a positive interruption that solves that problem for you, right? And it's admitting defeat. It's saying, I have a terrible memory. I have to use the tools available to me to solve this problem.
I love that.
What's the other one? You had another one.
Oh, my other one. This is not really, I guess, workflow related at all. But I am always going on walks, always finding little hour blocks of time in my week where I can go take a workout class. I'm always getting my 7,000 to 10,000 steps a day. I'm super disciplined about that. And I think it goes beyond physical fitness for me. It is, you know, first of all, like longevity and health, but also really, really important for your mental health. And I am someone that believes strongly in the mind and body connection. And if I am not feeling like I am moving my body and getting out of my brain, I'm not performing. I'm not as creative. It sounds crazy, but it is so true.
Yeah, and I support that 100%. And by the way, I failed to mention as part of your work at Asher, you are, is it appropriate to say, leading sort of a wellness initiative?
Yes,
tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so co-leading with Sarah.
Who's also amazing and who has been here for like a minute. No, not a minute, but like a year.
Our grandmas are best friends.
Wow. Now, hang on. Hang on.
So we have known of each other for a very long time.
So, okay. So how are your grandma's best friends?
Our grandmas have gone through school together since grade school.
Really?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Our moms went to school together.
Really?
We are generationally
Is Sarah
friends.
from Steuben County?
No, she's from Fort Wayne. My family's all from Fort Wayne, too.
Oh,
We just moved up there when my dad went to Trine.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that was another really nice digression that I didn't expect we were going to go down. So you and Sarah's grandmas are friends. Okay.
And we're friends as well. She's a great friend.
Yeah, well, she's great. So the two of you are co-leading. Tell us about what you're co-leading.
So it is the Asher Wellness Initiative.
Yeah.
So we're just really trying to focus on, as an agency, it was one of Kara and Megan's goals for the year, just to focus on wellness and well-being.
Yeah.
So not just physical health, but, you know, mental well-being. And I felt so excited about this because that is something I'm super passionate about.
Yeah.
And that has taken many forms. So, you know, we've focused on, as an agency, little challenges of breathing and posture. You know, we have some more exciting challenges coming up, but that has been really fun. And I think just another one of those little ways I feel really grateful to just kind of be more ingrained in the Asher culture and interface with people I'm not always talking to.
Well, and it's a way for, I mean, you and Sarah are proving leadership capability, even though your leadership role might not be there yet because of where you are in your career. I think it's great that you're taking leadership of what is really a potentially big issue. I mean, I know that it's a work in progress for me, but it is
all of us, for sure.
For all of us, It's pretty much borderline non-negotiable that 5 to 6 days a week, I'm going to start my day doing something active. It's not what it used to be because I'm 55, but it's a walk, it's strength training, it's something that is just about starting the day on sometimes literally the right foot, and that is, you know, predictive of how the rest of the day is going to go.
But I add, you're a gold star wellness participant. Always participating. Your goals are always great for the month. So kudos to you, Anthony.
The reason I respond so quickly to your emails is, number one, it helps me avoid real work. And number two, I nerd out on it. I really do. I think it's super important.
Yeah.
And just the prompt for our team to think about it is a great thing. And to have the support top down that says, yeah, we're going to prioritize this. We're going to carve out space for a discussion about nutrition. We're going to carve out space for people to, you know, we're fortunate that our building is in a place where we have walkability to lunch. We can go, you know, Brandon Pete and I did a walking meeting the other day. He walks really fast, by the way. I was like, after 20 minutes, I'm like, okay, enough with the walking meeting.
He's a tall man. He has long legs,
He has quite a stride. He has quite a stride. So yeah, but no, I applaud you and Sarah for taking that on because it is super important in a business that sometimes applauds too much the work hard side of work hard, play hard. I think it's great that you're leading it and making us all think a little more about bringing our best selves to work.
Well, thank you.
That's really good.
It's fun. It's rewarding. And, you know, working with Sarah is fun too.
Yeah. And your grandmas must be infinitely proud.
They comment on all of the Asher posts. You
I'm
can go look.
To watch for that. That's good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for doing this. This was fun.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This was very fun.
Thanks to everyone who took the opportunity to listen to this episode of the Asher Marketing Podcast. We'll be back next time with another great guest and maybe the grandmas of the guest. Who knows? Maybe we'll invite your grandmas on. And whatever that becomes, we hope you will join us then.
Thank you for tuning into the Asher Marketing Podcast. We hope that you found today's episode insightful. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe and leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. It really helps us grow. Join us next time for another exciting episode.